Hi everybody! The Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons livestream is just around the corner and we're all super excited about that, aren't we? So I thought I'd share my Elite Specialization speculations with you in the meantime. This first video will go over the 3 Light-Armour wearing professions, so that's Elementalist, Mesmer and Necromancer, so stay tuned to find out what I think we will or should get as Elite Specializations in the new Guild Wars 2 expansion. Since Revenant have actually released the silhouette of a Mesmer, we're of course going to start with that one. I know the community has been kinda split on the question of the weapon, but I think I'll have to go with Dagger. The bump over her shoulder, that many take to be a sign of a spear haft, does not in fact line up with the blade. You can try it yourself at a straight line bisecting the blade and you'll see that the blade and the bump aren't actually aligned. So it's really unlikely to be a continuous straight weapon, I'm sorry to say. The fact that the blade seems to be facing forward, unlike the usual reverse grip that most daggers have, also doesn't mean it's not a dagger, since we do have some dagger skins that are wielded facing the front. And perhaps more importantly, the silhouette has floating daggers above the head. And I didn't really see how spear would be a go-to weapon for the Mesmer. Daggers suit their theme much better and have been long requested. They're also much less of a stretch than converting the underwater spear for overland Mesmer use. So the only question in my mind is whether we'll get one dagger or two. And I think it will be just one main hand dagger, although some Elite Specializations do get two weapons, like warriors get both main hand and offhand dagger with a Spellbreaker Elite Specialization, so it's not impossible by any means. I just think it's gonna be one. I really hope that dagger would be a power-based ranged weapon, because both Mesmer Elite Specializations so far were very strong and useful, so we already have excellent long range and close range quantity damage, very good melee power builds, very good tanky builds, but the ranged power option is kinda meh in comparison. And if we do get a dagger main hand that would allow us to cast spectral blades at our enemies, just spiking them down from afar, I think that would be very cool. This ranged dagger Mesmer idea also really reminds me of sorcerers from ESO, who can summon spectral daggers with their auto attacks and then send those flying into an enemy. And I think we'll get something very similar, like our clones would be illusionary dagger charges, which we could then use in our shatters. Revenant could also reuse some already existing animations, like Elementalist Earth Scepter skill 1 and 2, where your character extends their hand, similarly to the Mesmer and the silhouette actually, and then blades of rock fly out towards the enemy. Just, replace the rock with like spectral daggers or something. And I think it would make sense for them to reuse assets if they can repurpose them in new ways. Like, we really don't need 5 different ways of shooting projectiles at people. And they could also use the Thief or Ranger dagger throwing animation, so we could have a Mesmer who would send out psionic spectral daggers everywhere. I think it would be pretty cool. For utility skills, they could very easily go with the spectral weapon idea and use spirit weapons, just like Guardian, except, purple. And the benefit of that would actually be that we have Mesmer spirit weapons in the game already, those translucent purple ones that your phantasms wield and that you can get off the TP, and you could just reuse those same models as part of a skill animation this time. So I think it would really go along with that thematically coherent Mesmer Mind Blade or Blade Dance or something Elite Specialization. So, thanks to the teaser image, most people have already discussed Mesmers and formed their opinions on what kind of weapon that silhouette is supposed to be wielding, but these were my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. If you really like the spear idea, by the way, go check out my Warrior Elite Specialization speculation video, and you may find me talking more about spears in that one. Now, the question of the Necromancer's next Elite Specialization will be based on its weapon, I think, because there's not a lot of weapons that I can imagine the Necromancer wielding that would make thematic sense and fulfill sound gameplay purpose. They already have an incredibly powerful melee specialization, so I don't think they would need maces or swords, because, let's be honest, none of that could compete with turning into an actual Reaper and cutting people down with a spectral scythe. Rifle, pistol, and bows don't feel very necromantic in my opinion, so what if Necros got an offhand axe? We can already wield axes in our main hand, of course, which are a mid-range power-based weapon with vulnerability, and I think getting a strong axe offhand to pair with that would be a very cool match. And also because Revenant have just released that amazing axe skin, and I want it for my Necromancer so bad. Like, please give me double axes so I can fulfill my flesh-rending, blood-draining fantasies. Jokes aside though, I really do think that the Necromancer could benefit from that Blood Mage theme, since they already have a trait line for blood magic, and Dagger 2 is like a blood siphon thing, so it would fit their vibe. So the specialization would be like the Blood Letter or something, a type of necromancy from Kyning City, for example, which would fit in with the lore. Like, maybe after the affliction has ravaged Cantha, they started experimenting with blood and various pathogens to become a plague doctor, blood alchemist, that sort of thing. The special axe skin that the Necromancer could get as part of the Elite Specialization collections could be a Kama, which is again very Cantha appropriate. Now, we already have a Kama skin in the game, but that one is a dagger for some reason, although I think the Kama would be more suitable for an axe. Like, the shape of it just reminds me more of a pickaxe or a sickle anyway, and I think that would be more suitable for the Necromancer harvesting people. They could use it ranged, like raking a group of enemies, leaving them bleeding, or eviscerate, where they would yank and pull bleeding enemies, or something like that. The new profession mechanic would have to do something with Shroud, right? Because Elite Specializations not only give you a new weapon, but also change the core gameplay of your class in a meaningful way. Necromancers have access to the Shroud, which they can enter and use a special set of skills, and Reaper got access to the Reaper Shroud, a whole new set of abilities. So we probably wouldn't want another Necromancer Elite Specialization that adds another type of Shroud to enter. Scourge, on the other hand, got deployable shades and a bunch of shade skills that they can spam, for amazing effects, by the way. If you've played Marionette recently, you know from all the Scourge squads that Scourges are in a good place. But we also wouldn't want something that feels too similar to that. So I suggest that the new Necromancer Elite Specialization mechanic should be Blood Frenzy. And yes, I am sticking with the Blood Mage theme, and you're gonna have to bear with me. The idea is that your life force bar acts as a reservoir of blood, and if you are above a certain threshold, you enter Blood Frenzy that increases your damage or gives you alacrity or something. But the Shroud skills that you get on your F1, 2, 3, etc. take blood to cast. So it gives you that interesting gameplay that life force is no longer just there to expend, like you do on a Scourge, where you get life force, spam shade skills, get life force, spend it again, but that there are benefits to being strategic with your life force so that it feels more like a tangible resource. This would add a new kind of gameplay to Necromancer that's somewhere between Holosmith, Forge, Warrior Adrenaline, and Revenant Energy Management, while still being different from all those and from other Necro specs due to its trade-off system. Like, on a warrior, you want to fill up your adrenaline to enter Berserk, then you burst, do tons of damage, do CC with your rage skills, burst again, fill it up again, etc. While in the Necro spec it would be either or. Do you need to hard CC that mob right now, even if that takes your life force, or do you want to keep your soft CC ticking for a few more seconds because you'd rather keep your life force for its benefits, and you're about to get enough to hit Blood Frenzy and then go ham? For utility skills, they could get elixirs, which are currently an engineer skill, but I think would go very well with the necromantic blood mage vibe as well. Like, your healing elixir could be Sanguine Tonic, which heals you and gives you a thirst for blood so that you generate more life force for some time. You could have various other elixirs that you can throw to give boons to allies or to damage enemies, and maybe your elite skill is Hemophilia or something, where you get a whole flood of blood to keep up the blood frenzy and use your F skills without dropping out of it. Alright, so it may be a crazy idea, but to me it sounds different enough to feel like a unique spec, while also fitting the Necro overall. If you've played the first Guild Wars game, for example, Necromancers looked very vampire-like, and my first character was actually a Necro because they really doubled down on that early 2000s gothic vibe that my teenage self was just there for, let me tell you. So I think this would be a cool idea, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. For the Elementalist, the question boils down to what weapon could they get, really? They already have most weapons with a whole set of skills on their conjures, so there isn't really much left. Neither rifle nor pistol seem like Ellie weapons to me at all, and Weaver is such an amazing melee specialization that it's probably going to be a no to maces as well, like what's even the point? But what Ellie could use is a good long-range DPS option, as Staff is just sand, unfortunately. All the best Elite Specs are close to mid-range, which is really annoying when a lot of people, myself included, picked Ellie for that spellcaster fantasy, and instead we were stuck using daggers or swords, while Staff Mesmers are actually ripping things to pieces from range, where we too should be. So, bow, maybe? We already have an ice bow conjure that nobody really uses, but do Elementalists really need a bow? Like, I'd be happy if our staff was just revamping to something actually useful, but okay, new weapon. So, bow would be an arcane marksman sort of thing, which some people like the idea of, but I'm not one of them. What I think Elementalists should get is a focus in their main hand. Granted, converting an offhand weapon to be usable in the main hand hasn't really been done before, but I think it's more reasonable than the idea of spear mesmers, let's say. And it would make perfect sense for the Elementalists to have anything whatsoever in their hands, since they can cast a magic without a weapon. Like, one of their dagger skills is them breathing fire, which has nothing to do with daggers being in their hand. So focus could be equipped for stat purposes, while the animations could show the Ellie casting spells freely. I just really want a good long-range option for Ellie, and I think a focus-wielding spellcaster could fulfill that. The only concern then would be what they would get in their offhand. Since Warhorn is Tempest only and Dagger really works from close range, my solution to that is that this Elite Spec would get a trait that increases the range of focus skills, which would then apply to offhand focus as well. The game has a lot of traits that modify how weapons work, like reduces the recharge, changes one of the weapon skills into a different skill, or makes the projectiles that they produce pierce through enemies. So I think we could have an arcane reach trait or something that would allow us to extend the reach of focus skills to make them a nice ranged elementalist option. If Revenant will actually convert underwater weapons for overland, then Trident would be a perfect choice for Ellie, and we could get an actually well put together viable ranged weapon skill set to replace the staff, and I'll be more than happy with that too. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Now, onto the profession mechanic. It will have to be arcane attunement, really. I mean, it's quite strange that it doesn't exist already, since we have an arcane trait line, arcane utility skills, but no attunement. The issue I foresee is that adding another traditional attunement would mean new skills for every weapon in that attunement, which may be a bit much, let's be honest, especially after the truckload of spells they added for Weaver dual attunements. So arcane attunement may function more like Celestial Avatar, which has its own skills independently of your weapon, with the difference being that while rangers need to charge up their CA and then enter it for a limited time, arcane attunement would be a regular attunement with a regular cooldown. It's just that you would get access to the same skills on any weapon, and this may even round out certain weapon skill sets without requiring 100 extra spells or so. Regarding utility skills, I have no strong preference, apart from the fact that Ellie needs quickness or alacrity, or both. Elite just doesn't bring enough to the table in a world with Revenants, Mesmers and Quick Brands, so it would be nice if we got something useful with this Elite Specialization. I mean, sure, who doesn't like sharing auras on a Tempest, and Weaver's Super Speed and Vigor and Barrier are nice, but not nice enough, so I would like to see some competitive boons there. A lot of the already existing arcane skills have charges, so maybe the new specialization could get mantras as a skill type to go along with those, since mantras are also just an ammunition based skill now. Like, we could get Mantra of Water for a healing skill, Mantra of Fire, Air, Earth for the rest, with the Elite skill being an Arcane Mantra, since we don't actually have an Arcane Elite skill yet. So this is my idea for the Elementalist. Let me know if you agree or disagree, if you have better ideas for the weapon or the attunement, but I hope that you're just as excited for End of Dragons as I am, and that you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching.